Appreciate the opportunity to come share this information. Okay. First, I want to start with a thank you. Most presentations end with a thank you, but I always start with one. Just thank you for attending, being here today. I also want to thank any member leaders out there. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your service to the society. It's greatly appreciated. This topic is mainly focused on member leaders since ASQ service is one of the criteria to become a fellow. So if you're not active member leader now and you'd like to become a fellow, please get involved. Quick, you can take a quick screenshot of that for my contact information. Um, I am been a fellow since 2001. I'm the immediate past chair of the Society Examining Committee. We're the committee that's responsible for maintaining the fellow procedures and doing the review and scoring of all fellow candidates, nominees. Um, the bullet I'm most proud of is the second one down here. I'm an active member leader with ASQ since 1992. So I've been doing this over 30 years, being involved with ASQ year after year. And it's amazing how fast the years go by. All right, so this is what we're going to cover today. First, we will talk about what a fellow is. We'll discuss the benefits of being a fellow. Then the real meat of it is the eligibility, the criteria, what's the process to become a fellow, and the timeline. That'll be the real key takeaways. And then we'll end the presentation with helpful resources available to you. And lastly, hints and pitfalls. We want to help utilize the hints and avoid these common pitfalls that we're seeing on a continual basis. So the first thing is, what is an ASQ fellow? And it is simply a membership grade. We have professional members, we have student members, we have senior members, and then we have fellow. And above fellow would be the honorary members. Most people, I think ASQ has had less than 40 honorary members, but there's quite a number of fellows, probably 500 or 600. So it is a significant group within the society. As it says here, fellows represent the upper echelon of the quality profession, and you'll see why when we go through the criteria. The key thing to remember is fellows is an honor. It's something that you were nominated for. You cannot apply to be a fellow. You have to be nominated by your peers. And lastly, it says here the fellows serve as a backbone of society. Most of the members of the board of directors are fellows or or on their way to becoming a fellow. I know last year every new member on the board was a fellow. So they always give back. You know, a lot of fellows continue their service after they achieve this honor, and they continue serving society. So that discusses what it is. So why do you want to become a fellow? That's a good question. You know, why go through this? Number one, it's an acknowledgement of your professional credentials. It's really a capstone of your career. It's like, hey, you've accomplished a lot in your career. Here's what you've accomplished. Here's what you've done, and we're going to acknowledge that. There's a lot of prestige with being a fellow, and you can see the benefits here. You'll get a frame certificate. They'll give you an ASQ fellow pin. The big one here is a free World Conference registration. That's a great benefit. You get to go to the World Conference free of charge. That's a $1,300 value the year that you become a fellow. When you're there, they'll give you a fellow ribbon. So that's part of the prestige. You know, you get to walk around the World Conference with a ribbon that identifies you as an ASQ fellow. There's an annual luncheon. An annual luncheon serves as a way we welcome new fellows and we honor them. And it's over the years it really becomes more meaningful. When I first went, I knew a few people. Now I go there and it's like a reunion, a very annual reunion with a lot of people I have known and worked with over the last 25 years. So it's really great, and it's a good lunch. And lastly, there's a fellow directory. So it's a published directory that we, the fellows, share amongst ourselves. It's semi-confidential, um, and that has your contact information if you're willing to share it. The benefit of that is if you need to reach out to your peers, you have an easy way to find them. For me, it's been good because I've done conferences and Memphis, I've done conferences in Grand Rapids, and I contacted the local fellows and said, hey, who's available to present? So, and I was able to get a few to actually come in and speak. So by reaching out to my peers, my fellows, I was able to get them involved, helping me with a conference. So the directory comes in handy. And it also keeps you track of who's where, what's their title is, who they're working for, what's their phone number, email, all that. So it's a handy item. So those are the benefits of being a fellow. What do you have to be eligible? What's the eligibility requirements? All right. So number one, you have to be a member in good standing, and that's achieved simply by paying your dues. You can't have any ethical violations in the last 5 years or no pending investigations. Obviously, this is a prestigious position. It would not reflect well on society if people had ethical issues against them and they were becoming fellows. So, we want to discourage that. Why the 5-year requirement? Well, you need to be, as the last bullet says, you need to be a senior member for 5 years. So we're sort of like, we'll clean the slate after 5 years. You served your time, you paid your penalty, now you're eligible. In the meantime, you're achieving your 60 plus months or 5-year eligibility to be a senior continuously for the 5 years prior. You have to work in a quality related work experience for 15 years. So if you graduate at 22, in your late 30s, you're now eligible if you've been a quality professional. So we expect, quite a bit of contributions in the quality field. As I mentioned, you have to be nominated. So you can be nominated by a section or division. You may be nominated by a regional director for the GCC, or the geographic communities, or a segment leader on the technical side, the TCC, technical communities. And lastly, you can be nominated by fellows. There are 6 proficiency areas, which we'll cover in the next couple slides. And across those 6 areas, you have to achieve some minimum scores. And last I said, the 60 months or 5 years immediately prior to being nominated, you must be an ASQ senior member. So the first takeaway from this presentation is advance to senior membership, knock out that requirement. That was advice given to me early in my career. Someone said, hey, upgrade to senior. And that way, whenever you do become eligible for LO, you've had that 5-year, 60-month requirement achieved and knocked out of the way, so you don't have to worry about it. So nothing would be worse to say, hey, let's nominate you and now upgrade to senior and wait 5 years. That would be a significant wait in time. So let's try to avoid that. So takeaway 1, upgrade to senior if possible. There's no charge, it's free. What does it take to become a senior member? So as it says here, the following thing, there's 2 things. You have to have 10 years professional experience. If you graduate from college, a 4-year degree, you only need 6 years experience. So 4 years of college, 6 years of professional experience. You're in your late 20s and you're eligible to become a senior member. Senior member is not age related, it's just a title. And then you have to do one of the following 5 things. Number 1, currently hold an ASQ certification. That requires recertification, a certified quality auditor, certified engineer, certified quality manager, or to be a senior member in another professional organization, or have worked in quality for 2+ years, or have taught quality related sciences, arts, etc. So if you're working in the quality field for 2 years, that's all it's required. 10 years experience, 2 of them related to quality, or the certification, or the senior membership someplace else. So it's a lot of different ways to get there, but it's for me, it was easiest to get my ASQ cert, got my CQE, and then had my 10 years in, and then off to senior we go. Okay, I talked about proficiency areas. So you'll be scored in 6 proficiency areas, and here they are. The first one is technical competence. How do we prove technical competence? The easiest way is by certification. Now you can achieve technical competence in other ways, but by simply having a CQE or CQA or CQ manager, black belt, green belt, etc., That's the quickest and easiest way to do it. Number two, occupational responsibility. We'll go in detail in a bit, but it's, what have you done in your career in terms of professional work? Number three, any type of publications, papers, presentations. Number four, ASQ activities. This is where you need to be a member leader. You volunteer your time. Number five, service other than ASQ. What professional affiliations have you had other than ASQ? The easy ones, Baldrige, ISO, standard committee work, that kind of thing. And there's others, of course. And lastly, you have to do teaching, right? Or if you're a professional teacher, if you're a college professor, you have to do consulting. And that consulting cannot be teaching. You have to go actually do consulting work. And as it says on the bottom, all these areas must be quality related. So you have to have teaching that's quality related. Your papers and presentations must be quality related. Your occupational responsibility must be quality related. This is a ASQ fellow, so we honor quality professionals. I mentioned scoring. So here's the scoring. You can get a total of 44 points across the 6 criteria. You can get up to 8 points in 5 of the different areas, and other professional affiliations you can earn up to 4 points. There's a maximum of 44 available. Generally, we see scores in around 28, 29 area. As it says, I mentioned already, professional teachers must consult, all others must teach. Here's your minimum scores required across the 6 areas. You need a total of 28 points minimum to achieve ASQ fellow. In each of the areas, there's a minimum also. Technical competence, you need 4 points. I'll go through some examples in just a second. Occupational responsibility, you need 3 points. Publications, 2 points. ASQ activities, 4 points. Other professional affiliations, you don't need any, but they're like bonus points. And then lastly, teaching or consulting, you need 2 points. Now you can see under ASQ activities, 4 points is a minimum. And other professional affiliations is a 4-point maximum. Way that's done is, why that's done is because this is ASQ fellow, so we're honoring ASQ work. So we don't want people coming from other professions and then earning, doing a lot of work in other professions and doing minimal work in ASQ. We want, the activities at least to be equal, but obviously we put more emphasis on ASQ. So this is why the other professional affiliations max out at 4, where ASQ minimum is 4. Here are some examples how scoring is done. Point out here, note number 2, areas are not cumulative. So for technical competence, you get 4 points for green belt, 5 points for being a CQA, 6 points for being a CQE. You can earn 7 points for being a master black belt. We take the high score. They're not cumulative. You can't get more than the high. So not everyone reads the instructions. Every year we get an application where they score 70 points. Well, the max is 44. So they obviously have done some accumulations, and we have to give them feedback saying, hey, we only take the high score, and this is what we're looking for. Examples under occupational responsibility. I'm going to use titles here, but we do not score on titles. We score on based on what your job responsibility is. Obviously, the more responsibility you have, the higher your score. And generally, that aligns with, being an engineer is 3 points. A senior engineer would be 4. Manager would get you 5. A director would get you 6. And the VP would get you 7. Now, if you're a VP for a very small company, you may only get the 5 points. Again, it depends on your responsibility, not your title. But if you work for a very large corporation and you're a VP and you have multiple units across the globe and you're managing different business units, that's a very large scope, and you would score much higher. Under papers and publications and presentations, you can see here some examples. If you do 2 presentations at an ASQ meeting, you get the minimum of 2 points. So we expect you to go to 2 ASQ meetings. They have to be separate presentations. You can't present the same topic twice. You have to present on 2 different topics, but you can get the minimum by doing 2 ASQ meeting presentations. The high end, you can be a sole author of a book, you get 8 points. And there's a scope in between. For ASQ activities, you can see here, you'd be functionally active for 4 years in 2 positions, you get the minimum of 4 points. So if you're the membership chair and the MyASQ liaison, you're running the ASQ site, you're running membership, you do that for a total of 4 years, you then get the minimum of 4 points. If you're an elected officer and you've gone through the, hey, secretary, treasurer, chair-elect, chair, and those are 2-year terms, you've now achieved 6 points, being elected officer for 6+ years. So we see that most common. Most people I've been a secretary, I've been a chair-elect, I've been a chair, 2-year terms, I got my 6 years in, and you score very high at 6 points. If you're on a board of directors, you'll get 7 points. If you're an elected ASQ officer, like the chair, the ASQ treasurer, you get the 8-point maximum. For other affiliations, some examples, if you're on a US tag TC 176, you get 1 point. If you're a state quality award examiner, you get 2 points. If you're a Baldrige examiner, you get 3 points. If you're a Baldrige judge, you get 4 points. So you can see how that scales up. And then lastly, we have teaching, a 16-hour course for your employer. It could be a 16 one-hour courses, but if you delivered 16 hours of training for your employer, you'll earn a minimum of 2 points. If you want to earn more than 2 points, you have to do training external to your company. So you went out and taught an ASQ class, maybe on FMEA or root cause analysis, you would then get doing that work. You can teach 32 hours for advanced class, you get 4 points. And we look at the topics. You're teaching a certified quality inspector refresher class, 16-hour class, you do that twice, you get your 32 hours. That would score lower than teaching an advanced class like black belt material certified quality engineer. That would be an advanced class and you would get more points. Okay, moving on. Here's a timeline. So general timelines to start now. You look at and say, am I eligible? Let's do a quick self-score. And you can meet with me or one of the ASQ coaches. We can quickly, within 10 minutes, assess where you stand. And if we feel that you're scoring, look like you're a solid 28, 29 points, let's move ahead. So then you prepare the nomination and you gather objective evidence. And the key here is objective evidence. I'll talk about this in nausea in the next few slides. Objective evidence is what gets you to become a fellow. Without any evidence, you can't score very well. You submit your nomination packet on May the 1st. In May, ASQ headquarters staff will review what came in. They'll make sure there's no ethical violations. They'll make sure you meet your 5 months or 60 consecutive months as a senior member. And then they will forward that to the Society Examining Committee. We will spend a couple months reviewing and scoring those nominations. So first of all, the entire committee gets all the applications, and it can range from anywhere from 10 to 30, maybe 40, and we'll score each one of them individually. We send the scores to the chair. The chair will put all the scores together, and then we'll meet. We'll do a consensus scoring. Jim had 5, Joe had 6. What's the difference? Someone had 0, someone had 8. Wow, it's a big difference. Why? What did you see that I missed? And so we go through it. So in very much details. It could be multiple nights for multiple hours where we're sitting there reviewing each and every proficiency area for each and every candidate. And I've seen discussions on some of these proficiency areas just on one proficiency area for one person lasts up to 30 minutes, trying to make sure we get the score right. We then provide our recommendations to the board of directors. Board of directors will meet in November. They'll review very quickly thereafter, they'll announce who has successfully passed. In my years, I've never seen anybody go to the board of directors and not been and pulled off. Everyone that the SEC approves has been approved. Not that it can't happen, but generally once you get through the SEC, you're good. And then you'll announce, hey, congratulations, you become a fellow. In May, you get your recognition. We'll give you your pin. You get to come to the World Conference for free. You can join us for lunch. So you can see here, the cycle is 16 months from the time you say, hey, I'm going to go, until the time you're honored. Now, if as soon as it's announced in the November, December timeframe, you immediately become a fellow at that point. You'll notice, hey, congratulations, you're now a fellow. Please join us in May at the World Conference. So there's a 6-month lag before the recognition, but the honor and the title gets bestowed immediately. Really, it's really less than a 6-month from the time you nominate. We receive the validations, reviews. It goes pretty quick. But there's still, there's significant time and scrutiny that's put in place. Okay, so I promised you some resources. So here's 3 resources. Number 1 is a nomination form. So these are active hyperlinks. So if this meeting's being recorded and you can come back to this, you can hyperlink this, or I can email this presentation to you, no problem. The nomination form is what you would submit to headquarters and what goes to the SEC. With that, there's a fellow matrix of requirements. This is like a 30-page document that goes through each proficiency area, each level, each score, and it'll tell you what's the recommended objective evidence that we're looking for. And the SEC relies on this document heavily. And so we look at what the matrix says, what's expected, we look at what you're on your nomination for, and we score accordingly. So the matrix is available to you in preparation. It'll be very helpful if you use a fellow process coach to do your review prior to submission. You can contact, what's the next slide, a gentleman that will provide you with that coach. I highly recommend getting a coach. Actually, I recommend getting 2 coaches just to go through the scrutiny of it. I'll show you why in just a second. So your fellow coaches are available. You can contact Jim Bossert here. Jim Bossert is our fellow coaches gentleman, and he will coordinate with you getting you a coach. He will go, or he or the coach that you work with will clarify the requirements. They'll explain the nomination process, which I've just done. And most importantly, they'll provide you guidance on evidence, how much of it is needed, what is needed, and they'll walk you through it. They're going to reference that matrix I mentioned in the previous slide, and they'll go through and make sure that you provide sufficient evidence. So my recommendation, number 2 takeaway, if at all possible, get a coach. Why do you say that, Jim? Well, we're looking at results. So success rates over the years, people with the coach have much greater success in becoming a fellow than people without a coach. You can see those without a coach in 2022 and 23 were less than 20%. The exception being in 2024, but only 1 out of 2 people made it. People with the coach had much higher success rate. And I will tell you in 2025, the results were just announced like a week ago. They were even better with the coach. I think it was 68%. So what's happening, the utilization of these coaches is getting better. They're getting better at telling people what they need. They get better at telling people, hey, you're not quite ready. Let's not attempt it. Because every year we see people who are on the fence and they'll try just to see how they'll do. And never have I seen anybody ever score higher after going through an SEC review than what they scored themselves. So here's the data. It says get a coach, and here's why. Okay, last couple of slides. I promise you some hints and some pitfalls. All right, number 1 hint, get a coach. Number 2, as I mentioned before, become a senior member as soon as possible. Number 3, and probably the most important thing I can tell you in this whole presentation, is start now, save, save, and save. What I want you to save is your objective evidence. Save any letters you get, any plaques you get, any recognition you achieve. Save copies of any articles you've written. Save copies of programs that list your name as a presenter. All this stuff is very important. It will serve as your objective evidence. We've heard many times people saying, well, I did a presentation 10 years ago, but I don't have any proof. Well, no proof gets you 0 points. You must have objective evidence to substantiate what you've done. Um, Letters attesting to it help a little bit, but it's better to have the actual proof. And if you do supply a letter, it's better to have 2 letters. Anybody can create a letter, but having 2 people validate things just helps validity. On the converse side of that is, as you as a member leader, provide thanks and praise as much as possible. We'd like you to utilize a Member Leader Excellence Award, utilize ASQ testimonial awards, utilize ASQ medals. Just internally recognize the people, give them certificate. My division gives everybody who actively involved a end of year certificate, thank you, acknowledging what you've done. If you've gone, my section does an annual conference. Each presenter gets a certificate. Thank you for presenting. It tells you the title of your presentation, the date. So now I can use that as proof of presenting. So please, as a member leader, provide as much thanks, praise, recognition as possible. There's nothing wrong with giving people plaques and handwritten thank you notes. Save it all. It all comes in handy at some point. Last 2 hints, when you get the nomination and you get the matrix, read them. All the details are in there, and we know who does and doesn't read these documents, because if you make mistakes, if things aren't working right, you just obviously haven't read what was there. And lastly, going back to provide sufficient evidence, that is key. That's we do not provide the benefit of doubt. The society examining goes by what's presented in front of them. So present that's evidence. Don't ask, don't expect them to go out and do a Google search on you. They're going to take what was given to them and look at it. Very similar to like a Baldrige evaluation, right? We take the evidence provided, we base our decisions based on what you provide, and we'll score it accordingly. Okay, my last 2 slides here, pitfalls, right? Number 1 pitfall we've seen is people not reading the criteria. It's plain and simple. The criteria says this, and we see people providing information that doesn't correlate. They're not following instructions, right? There's a lot of instructions. I wouldn't say it's clear, but they're all in there. So take the time to read, follow the instructions. I've talked about lack of objective evidence. We've seen that time and time again, people not providing objective evidence. Number 4, people who haven't used a coach. Success rate for coaches versus non-coaches is significant. I've mentioned this, let's submit and see what happens. If you score yourself at 28 and you're like kind of close, and you submit and say, well, let's see what happens. Now you'll get feedback, and you'll be told, what was deficient. But if you don't think you're ready, then don't submit. Please don't waste the SEC's time. Go back and get what's needed. If you need a couple extra points, do the Baldrige or state examiner, or go do some extra presentations, whatever it's required. Number 6, I've talked about this. People have accumulated points in proficiency areas. Doesn't work. We only take the high score. Number 7, lack of evidence of ASQ service. Number 8 is not understanding being functionally active. So the requirements are you have to be functionally active as an ASQ member leader. And all that means is you have to do something. We do not take people's title only. In the past, that's what happened. People had a title only, was sufficient. They did not put the requirement on that you have to be functionally active, have proof of actually delivering something. So what have you done as membership chair? What have you done as the conference committee chair? And all this can be explained in your letter, but have that proof. Having certificates and plaques and recognition, thank you notes, all helps substantiate they've actually been functionally active. And my last slide, number 9, address their criteria. We've seen time and time again people dazzling us with BS, trying to throw so much at us. We take the time to pull it apart, and we have to dissect and remove all the BS from the nomination. So please don't burden the SEC with a lot of extra trying to overwhelm us with criteria or overwhelm us with evidence or nonsense, because we'll sift through it, and it just takes more time, and doesn't make the SEC examiners any happier. Number 10, this is a sad one. The dog ate my homework. We've heard in the past people have lost evidence in Superstorm Sandy or Hurricane Katrina, and while we're sympathetic, if there's no evidence, we can't accept it. We understand that there's hardship. We know natural disasters happen, but you need to recreate that objective evidence. We will not take sob stories. And as sad as that might be sound, once we do it for one person, we have to do it for everybody, and then there could be abuse. So get the objective evidence. Number 11, people have duplicate information or double dipping. We've seen people say, well, I was the education chair, and as the education chair, I did training. Well, if you're the education chair and you did the training, you're doing the exact same job. They don't count. You can't duplicate or double dip. We're very strict about that. Number 12 says resume only. You can submit a resume only. That'll get you the minimum required for occupational responsibility. That'll get you a minimum of 3 points. If you want to score greater than the minimum of 3 points, you need letters from HR, company letterhead, all that kind of thing, so we can actually validate that you were performing your responsibilities on the job more than just by resume. I mentioned about presentations. If you do 20 presentations on the same topic, it counts as one presentation. We want 20 separate presentations. So one of the requirements, ways to score well, is present at ASQ, World Conference. If you go to ASQ's World Conference, do one presentation, you score 3 points, which is pretty good. If you do 2 presentations at World Conference, you score 4 points. These have to be 2 separate presentations. And if you do 4 presentations on 4 different topics, you'll score 5 points. So very good way to score under presentations by presenting at World Conference. If you do 4 different presentations, you get 5 points. Number 14, we've seen this quite a bit. I was chair, membership chair, program chair, arrangements chair. I did 4 different jobs. That's 4 years. Nope, it counts. It's 1 year of service. You can have all the positions you want. You can wear as many hats as you want, but you only get 1 year credit by calendar year for what you've done. So if you want to do something for 4 years, it's 4 calendar years, not 4 different positions. The fellow matrix will explain long and outstanding service. People have to read and understand what that means. Long is not 6 or 7 years. Long is 20 plus years. Outstanding service is what that means. We're not looking for someone who's been a membership chair for 20 years. That's long, but it's not outstanding. Outstanding service would be someone who's served as section chair, served in a division role, maybe served on a conference committee, or maybe served on ASQ medal committees. I know for a fact almost all the ASQ medal committees are understaffed. They're all looking for, I think, 9 judges. Most of them have 4 or 5. So if you're looking for extra credit, ways to serve the society, volunteer to join one of the ASQ medal committees. Lastly, my last point here is objective evidence, invoices versus pay stubs. Invoices do not count as objective evidence. Anybody can create an invoice. A pay stub is receipt of pay, so that we know would be a legitimate pay statement. So don't show us, and we've had this in the past, people pile on, here's 6, 8 invoices. That's proof of me doing something. Sorry, no, invoices don't count. You have to have something on the receiving end. So you can redact information on pay stubs, but that's a difference. So just things to be aware of. Okay, that concludes my presentation. We've covered the following. We covered what an ASQ fellow is. We've covered the benefits of being a fellow. We've gone through the eligibility criteria, the process and the timeline. I've talked about resources. And lastly, we went through hints to help you and pitfalls to avoid. And with that, I'll take it to anybody have any questions on anything we discussed today.
I had a question about, if you're a co-author of a book and taught the classes and stuff, is there a time limit as to
No, nope.
or that kind of
It's
thing?
looking at your professional career. So anything you've done since high school on up, it's all okay. As long as you can provide the evidence, that's okay. Co-author of a book would score 7 points. Solo author would get you 8. So 7 points is very high. So yep, that would be okay. And all I need is the cover, the index, and what your contributions were, and then you would get your 7 points. As for teaching, if you can get the evidence, it doesn't matter when you taught. It could be 20 years ago, 40 years ago. It doesn't matter. You've done it at some point in your career. Provide us the evidence, and we'll accept that.
Can organizational members become fellows? Like ASQE members, I think is what that means.
You have to be a senior member of ASQ. So the answer would be no. You have to join ASQ, be a senior member for 5 years, and then you would be eligible to nominate or be nominated.
You have to pay for your own membership.
Or have your company support you, or yes, but you would have to be an ASQ senior member to be eligible. If you weren't, it wouldn't even get to the SEC. Headquarters would remove that nomination packet
Sure.
and immediately return it saying, no, you didn't meet the criteria for 60 consecutive months as a senior immediately prior to nomination. And it's got to be consecutive. You have to be a 5-year senior, the 5 years, 60 months prior to being nominated. And generally, people meet that criteria because they're involved with ASQ activity, so they're doing things, and that happens. Any other situations or criteria we can discuss?
Do activities such as working on certification committees like BOC and exams, and does that all count?
Yeah, it all counts. Yep, that's all member leader development. Yes, that would count. Yeah, any type of ASQ service for any as I said, medal committees, serving on publication boards, all that, it would count.
I assume certified reliability engineer would count as under technical competency.
That would score 6 points. Yes, it's equivalent to CQE. So CRE would score you 6, which is a very high score. Yeah. People generally are in the 5 to 6 category. Sometimes we get 4. Very seldom do we 7s or 8s, but we do on occasion. So, but master black belt is 7. 8 points is someone who's done something phenomenal with terms of technical competence, but hasn't been involved with the society much. And we see that on occasion. Occasionally we see people on the board of directors who aren't certified, and it's rare, but it happens.
Technical committee for UL standards?
If
I
it's
assume
quality,
counts,
if it's quality related, that would fall under professional affiliations outside of ASQ. So, if you're somehow the work you're doing is quality related, yes, that would work. We see that on occasion, people serving on ASME committees, they're involved with the GD&T, geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, which is, part of the body of knowledge of certified inspectors, certified technicians, certified engineers. They'll serve on the GD&T committee. We'll accept that as quality related, and yeah, that'll work. And they worked on the standard NCY 14.5. We've seen people work on other related standards besides ISO. They've involved with the Z 1.4, 1.9, other statistical standards. So those are all accepted and as outside work for professional affiliations.
Does you said there, you had some references for documents on the ASQ.org that gives instructions and stuff. Does the instructions include examples of these kinds of things as well?
Yes, yes. It'll list, we're expecting to see, an, an org chart from HR. We're expecting to see certain letters, and your coaches would walk you through the finer details. But yes, there are examples there. They're very expensive. They'll be very specific, W-2 statement, pay stubs, syllabuses, letters from the dean who can verify you taught at a college, certificates, plaques. It's all in there as examples of what's expected. Obviously, we don't cover everything, but these are general what we expect to see. That's all in the matrix. The
Great.
matrix is very long and complex. It's, like I said, 30 pages long, and it goes through each of the 6 areas and each of the 8 levels. Here's what you expect at level 1, level 2, level 3. So it's quite detailed. So hence the point
And
was
the
read, right?
website, so everybody will be able to find that.
Correct. Yeah, that matrix is like our Bible. That's what we, the SEC, utilize when we do the scoring, and we expect to see this. Is what was presented, provided to us. Does it equivalent or meet what we expect? Certification is very easy. If you have a cert, I can look at a cert and say, oh, CQE 6 points, boom. Black belt 6 points. Occupational responsibility gets a little bit trickier because we're relying on HR documents, letters. I always say don't give me 1 letter, give me 2 to help with the validation, legitimacy. Obviously, we don't see a thing on HR letterhead. We do see occasion like I was her boss, I retired. All right, that helps, but give me another letter from the company that said we're there. And I've had situations where a company is no longer around anymore. So then we expect, all right, now it gets a little more challenging. Give me, 2, maybe 3 letters explaining what happened. Generally one letter is not enough because it's happened where people have given us information that wasn't quite legitimate, and we've caught people, sending us, you know, um, things that they made up. I can think one topic on the top of my head. Somebody gave us a load of invoices, and they had copied one invoice, and they made some, change the dates and change some things, but they didn't change them all. So we caught them, fudging information. So they scrutinize this very carefully.
I assume if you get caught trying to cheat like that, that counts as an ethical violation and you won't be able to apply again for a couple of years?
It could. There's never thing. I don't think we've ever pursued that, but we told them, hey, if you got to come back, give us. And I know that person that did that was not never reapplied. But yeah, that's definitely could happen if we see something very blatant. But
There's a question here about if they have evidence that was accepted for the master black belt, does that automatically mean it would be accepted for a fellow?
not automatically. We go by what's in. It's not automatic. I can't say, yep. 2 separate committees, 2 separate. The recertification is done by staff at headquarters. We are a bunch of volunteers. We don't share information. So generally it would, but we're just looking for legitimacy.
You
Have
want
you
to
taught
save that stuff that you submitted for so you could use it though, I would assume.
Oh yeah, we've seen a lot of that. We've seen a lot of people send a recert not the whole packet, but information from the research journal, and that'll absolutely work if it meets the what's expected in our what's dictated in the matrix. So yeah, so I've saved every research journal I've had. I've been doing them. I've recertified since 1993. I've got them all, and I have all that information and data and evidence still to this day. And back then it was done by paper. Now it's gotten a lot easier. But I told to save stuff. People gave me that advice a long time ago, and I followed it, and I continue. Um, what do I need it for now? Maybe I'm going for an ASQ medal, right? And if the grant medal is on teaching, well, what evidence do I have of teaching? So I can now go back and pull that. The ASQ Distinguished Service Medal. What have you done to support that? Well, I can go back to my research journals and pull that information and share that. I can say, well, yeah, I've been a member leader since 1993. Well, can you prove it? Well, yeah, I've got the certifications and thank you notes and letters. And I've saved handwritten thank you notes because I was given that advice early in my career and it's come in handy. So I can pull that information still to this day and show that if I ever, apply for any of these medals.
I think that's a good practice, and being the chair of the division, I have not done that for this year, so maybe I should do that. But it's not consistent
I would
across.
recommend my recommendation is what we do in my division. We put it on our business plan, and at the end of the year, everyone who's done something actively involved will get a certificate. And it'll just say, you get 1.5 RUs. Thank you for your service as, blank committee chair. And yep, and those go a long way in helping. And if you want, I can send you examples, even a template to do that. We also have the Member Leader Excellence Award. I recommend all sections and divisions give that out annually. Use it as a Volunteer of the Year award. Headquarters has it available. It costs like $75. They get a nice, trophy kind of thing that sits on your desk. Utilize that. Utilize testimonial awards. ASQ has a recognition program. It's available to you. The cost is minimal and the effects are very positive. Or even give a plaque. We give a outgoing chair a gavel plaque. Every other year the chair leaves, they get a nice gavel plaque. So it's something for them to cherish and use as an example that I've done something. So it's a good practice. There actually is a ASQ Best Practice Award that was published on how to go about creating a systematic recognition program for your member unit and how it helps with retention of member leaders. And I can send
Yeah,
you
some good
send you a
ideas
link
there.
on
I'll
that.
have to look that up.
Yeah, I'll be happy to send you that link as well.
There's a question of in your ASQ account, you can see what positions you've historically held within a section. Is that helpful for objective evidence, or?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's when I work with people on preparing a fellow nomination, I tell them take a screenshot of that. Unfortunately, ASQ doesn't let you download it, so you have to do screenshots. So they make it a little challenging. But yes, go to your ASQ communities or committees, and there'll be a list, from whenever, your history of all the different positions you held. Having that is highly valuable. Now that proves that you served. What you're missing then, you'll still need to follow up as being functionally active. All right, it's nice to know that you were a secretary. What did you do as secretary? Show us that you've kept minutes, and you can get letters to attesting to that. I can tell you one person who tried for fellow. They were the education committee chair for their section, but they didn't provide any evidence of doing anything. And they came back the next year and said, well, this person went to meetings, this person did that. And we looked at the job description for education committee and said, well, did you organize any classes? And they had done none of that. So we said, you're not providing proof of being functionally active. You're providing a proof that you have a title and you go to meetings, but going to meetings is not active. We're looking that you actually contributed value to the society. So as an education committee chair, look at the job description that's available on ASQ, and you don't have to do everything, but we expect you to coordinate courses. If you didn't run any courses, and you didn't add value to the society, you're just a title, you're a figurehead, you're not delivering value that's being required. So yeah, we need that functionally active position or functionally active evidence as well as just a title.
That's good to know. I can see people wanting to have just shown that they served and not have the evidence, and think that that's good enough. And I can understand why that's not, but it's good to know.
Yeah, and we don't go by name recognition. You could be Wanda Sturm, past president of the society, and it can come to the SEC and say, I know Wanda personally, and I know she did stuff, but if she doesn't provide evidence of her actually doing something, it won't fly. And that has happened to senior leaders in the society that, well, my name and I did stuff, but we still have to have that evidence. And like I said, we don't give the benefit of a doubt. So what Wanda would have to do is, get a letter from,
Show me the data.
um, yeah, exactly. Have Sid, write a letter. So, this is what you did, and we'll accept that. And for her position, we'll let it slide to having just one letter. But for other people, if you were a membership chair for your section, we would expect a couple letters validating. And we've seen, one of the things we've seen in the past is people being nominated by somebody. So John Smith nominates, a person, and then John Smith writes a letter saying, well, they did all this stuff. Well, you're nominating and you're validating. That doesn't quite work. We need somebody else to come in and say they did that work. So, give us, additional evidence besides just a letter from the guy who nominated you that you did work. Because we're not saying you didn't do the work, but the evidence is, lacking. And if you've done audits, if you've done any type of Baldrige evaluations, you look to make sure that, there's more there than just superficial information.
Great. I think we've covered all the questions. Unless anybody gives somebody 30 seconds to enter any other questions you have.
My email's there on the bottom. You can contact me anytime. I'd be more than happy to provide clarification. And again, you'll get a coach and they'll walk you through it, or contact me and I'll gladly walk you through a 10-minute conversation to see where you score. I've done that with about 10 people this year. Now that I'm leaving the SEC, I can now help on the other end of it. And I think of the 10 or 11 people I met with, 9 of them are solidly in. One's like a couple points shy, and one of them, needs quite a bit. So I can do that. It only takes a few minutes.
Well, thanks for all your help. You provided a lot of really good information, and told us where we can go for the rest of it. So I'll send out the presentation after the webinar, and hopefully there'll be some applications for fellow that go through in the next year or two based on this.
Did I mail this
Appreciate it so
presentation
much.
to Jennifer?
Yeah, you'll have to email it to me. I don't think I have it yet.
I will send it to you immediately.
Thanks so much for your presentation.
You're
It's really
welcome.
helpful.
Sure thing. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks everybody.